Hi everyone, I'm Katrina and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Draekora by Lynette Noni. This is the third book in the Medoran Chronicles, and before I go into any real details, the main part of this review, before I even touch upon the summary, I'm just going to give you a really brief overview of my thoughts in case you haven't read the first two books in this series. Because while this is going to be spoiler-free for Draekora, there's likely to be some spoilers for the books that came before it, unfortunately. So I don't want to ruin your experience for it, so I'm just going to give you a very vague idea of my thoughts. So this book packs a punch and hits you in all of the feely places. We continue to explore more of the world of Medoran, and we find ourselves in some really beautiful and wonderful new places. We meet some new lovable characters and see some pre-existing relationships develop in some unexpected ways. But most of all, the plot throws so many things your way from so many different angles. Draekora is absolutely my favorite book of the series so far, and I love the turn it took. It still retains a lot of that fun and the ease of reading that the first two books have, but the stakes are raised even higher in this one. And there's a bit of a darker undertone to it, which I really love. If you've picked up Canon, the first book in the series, and you're not too sure if you want to continue or not, for me, these books are getting better and better, so I would recommend it. Okay, continuing on with the rest of this review. This is a really, really difficult book to talk about without mentioning any spoilers, so I apologize if I'm super vague and you are just completely confused about what I'm actually trying to say. Really early on in this book, it takes a bit of a turn and everything is just completely foreign territory. I mean, it's not really foreign, it's kind of confusing and new, but it feels foreign. It just goes in a direction that you aren't expecting. Honestly, talking about it in any detail would be spoiling the experience. I'm going to try and keep things as vague as possible. In saying that, all I'm going to say about the synopsis of Draekora is that at the beginning of the book, we find Alex and her friends trying to figure out a way to help Jordan after the events that unfolded at the end of Raylia. And then Alex finds herself in a rather strange situation that just spirals into the events of this book. Confused? Well, good, because you should really go into this book not knowing anything. It's better that way. So how do I continue? I guess okay, this book made me fall in love with all of the characters even more, as impossible as that sounds, because in the previous books I thought I loved them to death, but somehow Lynette manages to make you fall even deeper for them. I have multiple new favorite characters because of this book, and that made me feel really warm and fuzzy inside whilst simultaneously conflicted about my feelings. We just get a lot more insight into some of the characters that we meet earlier on in the series, and the new ones that we do meet are just a great addition to the already lovable cast of characters that we have. Alex, again, proved time and time again how much of a strong character she is, and we see even more of her growth and development as a person. The poor thing is subjected to so much trouble. She kind of just stumbles her way into all of it, honestly. She doesn't always help her situation, but she already had a lot weighing on her shoulders going into this book, and it keeps piling up and up. Now, in terms of the plot, like, there's nothing really that I can say apart from wow and wow. I just love how this book really kind of diverged from the really fluffy and fun adventurous books that the first two were, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or anything. I really, really enjoyed those books for that fact, but in addition to those, like I mentioned earlier, there is this kind of darker undertone and it is a bit more serious, this book, and I really liked that there is a bit of a shift there. In terms of some of the things that did happen in this book, I was able to predict some of it, but surprisingly, it didn't really lessen my shock when those things came about. I think I just knew what was going to happen, but kind of hoped that things wouldn't happen that way. And so when they did, I was just like, what? How can you get out of this situation now? And just as a bit of like a teaser for those of you that are going to pick up this book and want to know what line broke me at the end, I was about to say, you look exactly like I remember. Like I said, it hits you in every type of feely place, all of the feels and feelings that you're not supposed to feel, but you do anyway. Or maybe you are supposed to feel it, and in that case, Lynette, you're a cruel, cruel woman. But I love you for it. Honestly, that is all that I can really say about Draekora. I feel like I haven't said that much in this review, but there's nothing more that I can say unless I want to spoil everything for you, which I don't want, because you need to go into this book blinded almost. When I finished the book, I was like leaning towards a 4.5 out of 5 stars because of some of the predictability in it, but this book has really stuck with me since I finished it. I mean, it's only been a week, but I can't think of much else, so I'm leaning more towards a 5 stars for this one. And now I have to wait a really long time for the next book, and I'm not okay with that. Also, Lynette drew me a Draekon, guys. Guys, I don't know if this review could be called helpful in any way, but thank you so much for watching anyway. I hope you at least enjoyed it. For those of you that have read the book, I'm tempted to ask what you thought of it, but I also don't want there to be any comments that kind of verge on being spoilery. Maybe don't leave a comment. Maybe just leave an emoji to describe your feelings. If I were to pick an emoji to describe my feelings, this is hard. Okay, number one, I would do the drooling emoji because all of the book boyfriends. Or I would also do the laughing emoji, the one where it's laughing until it's crying, because there was so much that made me happy about this book and made me smile, but it also made me really upset and conflicted and sad at some points. And I know that this emoji isn't crying because it's sad, but it's like that juxtaposition of laughter and crying, just like there's so many emotions that conflict with each other with this book, so I'm gonna go with that. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with a new video. But until then, I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye!